Welcome back to Off the Record. I'm Amy, and today I'm talking about something that I bring up all the time, and almost every time I do, I get blank stares. I'll mention it casually, like everyone knows what I'm talking about, and then I realize very quickly that most people absolutely do not. Today, we're talking about Lilith Fair. If you've never heard of Lilith Fair, don't worry, you're not alone. But if you grew up in the 90s or you were around alternative radio, singer-songwriters, or emotionally devastating acoustic music, then Lilith Fair was everything. And it's wild how completely it's been erased from the cultural conversation. Lilith Fair was a touring musical festival that ran primarily from 1997 to 1999, created by Sarah McLachlan, the same Sarah McLachlan that brought us hits like Building a Mystery and In the Arms of an Angel. That's right, the heartbreaking song on the ASPCA commercials asking us to donate money to help cats and dogs in need. The key thing about Lilith Fair is it was a festival led by women, featuring women artists at a time when the music industry was actively telling women they couldn't sell tickets. The idea for Lilith Fair came after Sarah McLachlan was told she couldn't tour with another female artist. The logic at the time was that audiences wouldn't show up for multiple women on the same bill, which is absurd. So instead of accepting that, she did something radical. She built an entire tour around women. Here's a list of featured artists and some of their hit songs in case you aren't familiar. Sarah McLachlan, which I've already covered. Sheryl Crow, If It Makes You Happy, and Soaking Up the Sun. There was Tracy Chapman, the girl who sings Fast Car, Give Me One Reason. Alanis Morissette, with songs like Ironic and You Oughta Know. There was Fiona Apple. She sings Criminal and Paper Bag. Jewel, who sings Who Will Save Your Soul, You Were Meant for Me, and Standing Still. The Indigo Girls, who sing Closer to Fine. Liz Fair, who sings Why Can't I? And many, many more. This wasn't a niche lineup. These were chart-topping, critically acclaimed artists. Lilith Fair wasn't just a concert. It was a space. A place where emotional honesty, vulnerability, and storytelling were the point, not a side note. It centered voices that were often dismissed as too emotional, too quiet, or not marketable enough. And here's the part that really doesn't get talked about enough. Lilith Fair wasn't just culturally impactful, it was financially impactful too. Over the course of its run, Lilith Fair raised and donated over $10 million to charities and nonprofit organizations. I want to remind you that this was over a 2-year span. $10 million in 2 years. Much of that money went toward women's shelters, domestic violence prevention, breast cancer research, and community-based women's organizations. This wasn't symbolic giving. It was tangible. It made a real difference. And that matters because it reframes the entire conversation. Lilith Fair wasn't just a response to industry sexism. It was proof that women-led music spaces could be successful and generous and sustainable. It didn't just sell tickets. It reinvested in communities. And here's the part people forget. Lilith Fair was a massive success. It sold out shows. It generated millions in revenue. It proved the industry wrong, loudly and clearly. Women didn't just sell tickets, they built ecosystems. So why don't people talk about it now? Why does mentioning Lilith Fair feel like referencing a secret club that only a few people remember? Part of it is timing. The late 90s were oversaturated with trends, genres, and pop culture moments. Things moved fast. And Lilith Fair didn't have a single mascot, scandal, or viral headline to keep it cemented in pop culture memory. Another part is sexism, honestly. Music led by women, especially when it centers emotion and vulnerability, often gets minimalized or written off as not serious. Lilith Fair became a punchline in some spaces. People reduced it to stereotypes instead of recognizing its impact. But the truth is, Lilith Fair changed the industry. It helped normalize women-led tours. It created space for emerging artists. It proved that audiences wanted honesty, not just spectacle. A lot of what we see now, women headlining festivals, female-forward lineups, emotionally open songwriting, didn't come out of nowhere. It came from spaces like this. And what's funny is that when I mention Lilith Fair now, people assume it was small, or niche, or unsuccessful. And none of that is true. It was groundbreaking. It just wasn't loud about it. Lilith Fair reminds me that cultural impact doesn't always look like domination. Sometimes it looks like influence. Sometimes it looks like opening doors quietly and letting other people walk through them later. If you didn't know what Lilith Fair was before this episode, that's okay. But now you do. And once you see it, you can't unsee how much it shaped the music landscape we're living in now. Thanks for listening to Off the Record. If this episode unlocked a memory or made you Google something mid-listen, send it to someone who might say, "Wait, what is Lilith Fair?" I'll be back soon with another episode. Until then, keep listening closely.